On this Sunday night,
we have a crisis at the border. It is national security. It's a national emergency.
Donald Trump doubles down on his threat: build the wall or he will declare it a national emergency. But does border security really qualify?
Our thing here at Escape Memes Canada is you're not escaping a room, you're escaping reality.
It's meant to be a game. Trapped inside a room, you need to solve clues to get out. But after 5 teens died in Poland, we're asking, how safe are escape rooms?
Has there been a moment where you've been like, ooh, could have done a rant on that? He's off the air, but still ranting.
I used to have 1 million viewers, now I'll just text Rosie.
Rick Mercer talks politics, pot, and life after the report in our Sunday interview. This is The National.
For Donald Trump, it's all about the wall. He says he's willing to let the government shutdown drag on until he's given the money to build. But why wait? As Paul Hunter reports tonight, the U.S. president appears to be giving serious thought to a move usually reserved for times of war.
As he considers taking the extraordinary step of now declaring a national emergency along the Mexican border and forcing the construction of a border wall, Donald Trump tonight made his case.
We're looking at a national emergency because we have a national emergency. Just read the papers. We have a crisis at the border of drugs, of human beings being trafficked all over the world. They're coming through. And we have an absolute crisis, and of criminals and gang members coming through. It is national security. It's a national emergency.
Critics strongly dispute the severity of the problem, but it's clear one way or another Trump believes a wall is now imminent, tweeting this image this weekend, styled on the TV program Game of Thrones. It's complicated, but if Trump were to declare a state of emergency, it could allow money already committed to the U.S. military to be diverted to pay for building the wall. A wall Democrats have so far refused to fund themselves because, in their view, there are better, more cost-effective ways to secure the country's southern border. And they underline, despite images such as these, also tweeted out by Trump recently, most migrants trying to cross into America are simply fleeing violence and poverty. Meanwhile, still caught in the middle of this, hundreds of thousands of U.S. government workers still without pay because of that partial government shutdown. Talks today with the vice president aimed at ending the impasse are said to have made progress, but Trump has insisted any plan to reopen government offices must include money for the wall, something Democrats insist is a non-starter. So with the partial shutdown now into its 3rd week, there remains no real end in sight. Setting aside whether he declares a national emergency at the border, Trump has said as far as he's concerned, the shutdown could go on for months, even years, Adrian.
But Paul, to this idea of declaring a national emergency to get that wall built, can he actually do that?
Well, that's a question that's got constitutional experts here in a tizzy. The short answer is maybe. Yes, the president, any president, is allowed to declare a national emergency. It's his or her call, no explanation needed. But typically, it's done in wartime or after an extreme natural disaster. This is an atypical moment. The bigger question is, can the president indeed then use the powers that come with a national emergency to build the wall? That's much more contested, and experts are split on it. If he tries, it's almost certain that he'd be challenged in court like he was with the travel ban. The truth is, presidents were given this authority with the presumption that ordinarily it wouldn't be misused. But again, these are no ordinary times. Adrian.
All right, Paul Hunter in Washington. Thanks, Paul.
A Canadian parliamentary delegation is at this hour on its trade mission to China. This while 2 Canadians are still detained there, following the arrest of a high-profile Chinese telecom executive in Vancouver. Our Sasha Petrusik is in Shanghai. He's following the Canadian delegation this week. Sasha, what are the MPs and the senator up to right now?
Well, the 4 members of parliament and the senator are off to see members of the Shanghai People's Congress, lower level politicians here in China. They will also be doing some tours of a high-tech park, and really the kind of thing that a delegation from Canada comes and does under normal circumstances in trying to foster trade and better connections. Of course, the connection here is not as good as it was, and the circumstances aren't normal. And one of the members of parliament on this tour, Michael Cooper, a Conservative, acknowledged that this morning.
This is not an ordinary parliamentary delegation any longer. And so clearly one of the overriding issues, the elephant in the room, so to speak, is the arbitrary detention of these 2 Canadians.
Of course, the big thing on everybody's mind is going to be what has been happening to the 2 Canadians who were arrested. Michael Spavor, who is an entrepreneur here. He lives near the North Korean border and does a lot of business with North Korea. The other one, Michael Kovrig, who is a former Canadian diplomat, now a member of a think tank. Both of them were arrested last month and face very serious accusations here. Now, the former Canadian ambassador here to Beijing, Guy Saint-Jacques, has said that this is not a normal situation, and this committee should not be treating it as a normal situation.
Well, I think it's because it's an issue that could have such an impact on the bilateral relationship. I think it would be normal for the delegation to raise our concerns and to speak forcefully.
So their trip, obviously really big news here in Canada, Sasha. How much attention, though, is it getting there in China?
Well, it has been in the Chinese language media here. The coverage has been in passing and it's been quite neutral, but that in itself is interesting because normally a delegation like this wouldn't even be mentioned. So the fact that it has been means that many people here are paying attention.
All right, Sasha Petrusik in Shanghai, where it's already Monday morning. Thanks, Sasha.
My pleasure.
So while that delegation travels through China, Spavor and Kovrig are still being held in undisclosed locations where they're reportedly questioned by authorities 3 times a day. Tomorrow will be 4 weeks since Chinese authorities took the 2 Canadians into custody in Beijing and Dandong for so-called national security reasons. So far, they haven't been formally charged with any crime. Still, China's top prosecutor said last week there was, quote, no doubt they had broken the law. Kovrig and Spavor have had no contact with lawyers or family members. They've had one meeting with Canada's ambassador, and there's no sense as to when the next one will be. The Foreign Affairs Minister's office says, as we have said before, we are deeply concerned by the arbitrary detention by Chinese authorities of 2 Canadians last month and call for their immediate release. As for Meng Wanzhou, she has been released on $10 million bail and is living in a multi-million-dollar Vancouver home in advance of her next court hearing next month.
The designer of an escape room in Poland has been charged in the deaths of 5 teenage girls and with intentionally creating a fire danger because of the placement of the heating system and no emergency evacuation route. And today, a Polish town held a vigil for the girls, who were all just 15. A memorial is taking shape outside the escape room. Authorities think a faulty gas heating system may have caused Friday's fire. Escape rooms have become pretty popular over the past several years for events like birthday parties and team building. But as Talia Ricci reports, the tragedy is raising questions about safety here in Canada, too.
Remember, please play safe, play smart, no dangerous for us to play inside.
Escape rooms create the illusion of being trapped or locked in. But it was all too real for those teenage girls in Poland.
This is something that should never have happened. It's very upsetting, and hopefully this will make owners in North America examine their safety systems a little better.
I'm gonna have to check on this. I'll be right back.
Escape rooms have exploded in popularity over the last few years, with hundreds popping up across Canada. The player's mission? To solve puzzles, often while fending off eerie foes. Sean Fishstein runs a large escape room and says part of his mission is to push for more regulations.
We can see where every customer is, and if a customer is not where they should be, we're on it within seconds.
But not everyone is so safety conscious.
What we don't necessarily see is people going above and beyond to ensure an extra layer of safety.
In many escape rooms across Canada, there's usually a setup something like this, where game masters will monitor the players through closed-circuit cameras so that they can offer the players clues, but also ensure that they're staying safe. Serious designers don't cut corners.
When I'm designing escape rooms, I try to ensure that everything that goes into the game will be safe for the players. So no flammable items, no dangerous items, no sharp items. I try to keep everything fairly low tech.
Andrew Parr has designed games for hundreds of escape rooms across the world and says one important thing has changed during the industry's growth spurt.
When I first played a few escape rooms about 2015, I was locked in and we had to find a key to get out of the room. And it wasn't long after that, just a few months, early, mid 2015, I noticed that all games had the rooms unlocked.
If you're game to play, there are some crucial questions you should ask.
Is it locked, and is there another way out that's not locked? Are there multiple exits to the building if the building is over a certain size? Never engage in an activity where you're physically restrained, handcuffed, or bound to an object or a prop, or blindfolded.
He says as someone who's escaped rooms around the globe, Canada's are among the safest. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
It's now officially an election year in this country, yay! And the latest national opinion polls paint a rather dim picture for NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. His party is hovering around 16% support. Before the last election, the party polled as high as 34%, of course under a different leader. But first things first, Singh's immediate challenge is to win a seat in the House of Commons. He's running in the BC riding of Burnaby South and rallied the troops there today, even though a by-election hasn't even been called yet. Tonight, the CBC's Tanya Fletcher looks at Singh's uphill battle.
Jagmeet Singh had hoped today would be the official launch of his campaign. No such luck.
It looks like Trudeau is again delaying calling by-elections here in Burnaby South and for the hundreds of thousands of Canadians who are going to continue to not have representation.
For some, Singh's response is simply deflection from a leader growing desperate.
I think there is quite a lot of pressure on him to be able to win in this by-election.
A lot of pressure because 2018 was a tough year for the party. At least 9 of 41 sitting MPs say they won't run again. And then there's the fundraising slump. While the Conservatives and Liberals took in record amounts in the fall, the NDP did its worst yet under Singh. And until he wins a seat, he doesn't have a voice in the House of Commons, a stark contrast to his predecessor.
The Prime Minister keeps referring us back to the whitewashed report of the Senate.
You want to be in a position where you can be jousting in the House of Commons, where you can be on the national news every night because you're part of the narrative in Ottawa, as opposed to somebody trying to rebuild the party or rebuild the party under their image from outside.
He's also an outsider in the riding he's fighting to represent.
NDP! NDP!
Born in Ontario, he only recently moved to Burnaby, but the NDP says it's beat those odds before.
And Tommy Douglas is, of course, somebody who resonates with people throughout Burnaby, somebody who is from back east, but chose to run in Burnaby as the national leader of the NDP. I think there's a tradition there as well that people respond very positively to.
If Singh loses, though, the implications are staggering for his party and his career.
It just won't be that he didn't win this by-election or he does win the by-election. It's a further test of a leader to be able to get them ready for an election, which everyone knows is coming.
At today's rally, a chalkboard filled with slogans like "History in the Making" and "We Got This." All signs pointing towards a confident candidate who has everything to lose. Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Burnaby.
Under legislation that was passed just before the Christmas break, the Prime Minister now has until January 20th to call that by-election, and a couple of others too, in the Quebec riding of Outremont. That's the former NDP leader Tom Mulcair's seat. He's left that seat, and the result there could signal if the NDP's Quebec base is holding or eroding. The riding had been a Liberal stronghold. In Ontario, there's a battle brewing in York Simcoe. That's Conservative Peter Van Loan's old seat, and that too will be a battle.
We're following several other developing stories tonight, starting with a tragedy in a lake near Ottawa.
And I could not imagine how terrible it would be to go in icy water like that.
So police say one person is dead after a car sank in a Mississippi lake. Officers found the car while investigating a separate report of an ATV falling through the ice in that same spot. Everyone escaped that vehicle safely, but divers will go in tomorrow to retrieve the victim from the car.
They came zooming through the light, and I was going, what the hell are these guys doing? What are they trying to do?
And another terrifying moment in Toronto, a witness described the chaos in the moments after a shooting this afternoon. It happened in a busy residential neighborhood in the Beach in the city's East End. Witnesses say two men jumped out of a car after the shooting and ran off. Police say the other men in their 20s were shot but are expected to survive. And there's an update on a police-related shooting in Dieppe, New Brunswick this weekend. RCMP confirmed today that one of their officers did fire a service weapon at a 25-year-old Nova Scotia woman during an incident yesterday. Her actions at the time were described as threatening to first responders. The woman was then taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The RCMP is not saying anything else while the investigation continues.
Ahead tonight on The National, the Canadian teen who stunned the tennis world. We catch up with Bianca Andreescu and why second place is still a dream come true for her.
And we'll take you to Saskatoon, where the thrill of the hunt is driving one man's passion project to rebuild a wartime fighter plane.
And I don't know about you, Adrian, but I could use a laugh today. So a little later, the Sunday interview with Rick Mercer. We'll talk politics, pot, and what he's been up to since the last time we saw him on CBC. Has there been a moment where you've been like, ooh, could have done a rant on that?
Sure, there's been tons of those moments. Then I get on the phone, and I'm on the phone like with a friend and ranting away, and they say, no, you don't miss your show at all, do you? Because I'm just like, rah, 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 rah.
From the din of battle stands a Canadian General Hospital housing some of Canada's casualties recently arrived from France. A welcome visitor comes to its doors, Her Majesty the Queen, who is taking time out from her many functions to visit her Canadian boys. The trim gray-clad figure with a dazzling smile wears the diamond maple leaf presented to her during the royal visit to Canada. For 3 hours in every ward, she talks to the wounded fighting men of Canada. The magic of her personality banishes all thoughts of depression. After speaking to each man individually and hearing their thrilling stories, the Queen comments briefly, the Canadians are doing a wonderful job. She leaves behind appreciation for her kindly thoughtfulness. Dockyards across the Dominion, Canadian girls flock to answer the call of the United Nations for ships and more ships. Joan Canuck has forsaken Vogue and Vanity Fair for blueprints and construction plans. The frilly dresses and fancy hairdos of pre-war days have given way to overalls and workers' caps. Brother, husband, and boyfriend on the Italian front and in Normandy need supplies, and supplies mean ships to carry them. Miss Canada is just the person to build those ships, and build them well with her own lily white hands. After the war, a barrage of red-hot rivets may take the place of the traditional rolling pin as feminine weapon Mark I when hubby comes home late. When it comes to fixing the gas stove or the family bus, the boys will have to take a back seat. When victory is won, a great share of the credit will be due to our fair Amazons in overalls. The convoy at sea represents the lifeline of our forces in the field. To maintain one fighting man in action, it requires 19 other men behind the scenes. Most of these are found handling the gigantic project of keeping the Army supplied with weapons, ammunition, and food, and the Air Force with planes and petrol. Under the Navy's protecting guns, all manner of craft are brought into use in the never-ending battle of keeping supply dumps filled. As soon as a beachhead is established, cargo vessels which are standing by commence pouring out their quota of stores.
That fighter plane on the left, the Messerschmitt Bf 109, was the backbone of Germany's Air Force in the Second World War. It's been called the most produced fighter aircraft in history, with more than 33,000 manufactured. That means an awful lot of them were shot down over land and over sea. Despite their notorious origins, they're now seen as treasures of aviation history, and some people love to restore them. A Saskatoon man has spent years working to get his Bf 109 into flying shape. Lucky for him, he has a wealthy backer who shares that passion. Bonnie Allen shows us his work in progress.
So this is the fuselage of the aircraft. As you can see, it's not a large aircraft.
Small enough to fit in his garage. Don Bradshaw is rebuilding an iconic fighter plane. This Messerschmitt Bf 109 crashed during the Second World War.
So in the cockpit of the aircraft, you'll be able to see that it's very cramped. The pilots wore an electrically heated flight suit because there was no heat in the aircraft at all.
Nazi pilots used the Bf 109 to take down Allied troops. Armed with cannons and machine guns, it was fast and deadly.
It shot down twice as many aircraft as any other fighter in history.
They were trying to get us before we got them. Unfortunately, wars like that.
After the war, the Allied forces bulldozed and burned most of Germany's planes.
These are some of the structural parts.
Building a Bf 109 that will actually fly would be a rare feat. Bradshaw is an aircraft maintenance engineer who spent 25 years inspecting planes for Transport Canada. Now, he's a treasure hunter. He scours the internet for old, damaged parts.
This is from a wreck. I actually got this particular piece through a contact in California, and it did come from either Austria or Germany.
It's not a cheap venture, but Bradshaw is backed by big bucks. Kermit Weeks is a rich American who lives off oil and gas royalties. He owns the largest private plane collection in the world. Weeks isn't paying Bradshaw to build the Bf 109, but he is bankrolling millions of dollars worth of parts so he can keep the plane.
I don't really collect any airplanes I don't intend to fly.
But for Bradshaw, it's about passion. Even as a young boy, he built his own bicycle and go-kart.
So you comb through thousands of photos, and then you have to lay it out and actually build it.
That's taken 5 years already, and it's about half done. Bradshaw has no plans to rush this labor of love. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Regina.
Up next on The National, I'll go in depth with Rick Mercer. We sit down to talk about life after signing off, his thoughts on the next federal election, of course, and one of his favorite stories from his old show.
I prefer the classic cone-shaped joint, what the young people call a coner.
So the first thing Pierre Burton said to me when I went to his house was, "Did you bring the weed?" And the last thing he said to me, he said, "Leave the weed."
First, though, there are a lot of sleepy Canadian tennis fans this week. People getting up in the middle of the night to watch Mississauga's 18-year-old Bianca Andreescu storm the courts of Auckland, New Zealand. She made it to the final, ranked 152nd, beating two former number ones, including Venus Williams. No, she didn't win the tournament, but she surely won the tennis world's respect. I caught up with her moments before she boarded a flight tonight for Melbourne, Australia. Thrilled, but sore everywhere.
I would be lying if I said I was feeling okay. I've been getting a lot of treatment for my back, and also my leg hasn't been holding up so well. But now I'm going to be flying to Melbourne, and I'll be getting a massage. I'll be getting as much rest as I can.
There's a lot to ask a young player who took on Titans and became a fan favorite. A natural question, what was her biggest pinch me moment?
Everything was honestly a dream, but probably the victory against Venus got to me. I was in awe for like 2 hours after that. That night, I really couldn't sleep. My adrenaline rush was like about here. She was really nice at the net. She told me that I played very well and that she wished me good luck. I think I've gained a couple more fans here in Auckland, and it just gives me a very good adrenaline rush when I hear my name in the crowd, so that for sure helped too.
And now that she's given Canadians a taste of a new great in the making, what's next? A jump in her ranking seems in order.
A couple of people told me that I would be around 107. So that is not bad. That is not bad. My goal was to go directly into main draw of the French Open. So I think I'm one step closer to that.
If you don't play the game and wonder what it's like to hit a winning shot, Andreescu has a tip. There is nothing better.
Oh my gosh, it's the best feeling ever, really. A clean forehand winner, match point of a match. The rush is amazing. You get so many feelings inside, and I really hope that this week did inspire a lot of people to pick up a racket, and I'm sure this is going to be amazing for Canadian tennis.
Fingers crossed, alarms set. She next plays in a few days' time in the qualifiers of the Australian Open.
Forgive me for putting on these sunglasses, but they're actually bifocals and they're the only glasses I have with me. I don't like to see people wearing sunglasses in interviews. This is the only poem I can read. I am the only one who can write it. I didn't kill myself when things went wrong. I didn't turn to drugs or teaching. I tried to sleep, but when I couldn't sleep, I learned to write. I learned to write what might be read on nights like this by one like me.
Through his work, Leonard Cohen has cultivated a public persona just as interesting as his writing that deserves and has a new anthology. While Cohen prefers talking about the present and the future, this book has him looking to his past.
Now, the early stuff was written between the ages of 15 and 20, you know? I think it's been downhill ever since, so I had a real gift then.
In 1956, while still an undergraduate at Montreal's McGill University, he won a national prize for his first book of poetry. His second won him international acclaim.
His blood on my arm is warm as a bird. His heart in my hand is heavy as lead. His eyes through my eyes shine brighter than love. Oh, send out the raven ahead of the dove.
Cohen quickly cultivated the reputation of a chronically depressed poet who was both hip and hypnotic. He dubbed himself the Grocer of Pain. And while the Grocer of Pain is still at his post, since 1967, he's been putting his words to music.
We're drinking and we're dancing, the band is really happening, the Johnny Walker wisdom running high. And my very sweet companion, she's an angel of compassion. She's rubbing half the world against her thigh.
At the beginning of his musical career, friends begged him not to sing. Cohen's voice is reminiscent of a truck trying to turn over on a cold Montreal morning. Not pleasant, but a familiar sound. And that sound was honored at the Junos earlier this year with the Best Male Vocalist Award.
You know, it's only in a country like this that I could get the Male Vocalist of the Year.
Last week, Cohen received a Governor General's Performing Arts Award. While he's a bona fide star around the world, musical acceptance here in North America is something new for Cohen.
This is my work. Writing is my work.
Well, hello, you. Steven! Moira! Alexis!
Johnny Rose, baby.
Ready? Yes! Who wants some champagne?
Come here, big guy.
Look who's back in the house. I smell drama.
Oh, we do have a lot of fun around here, don't we? We do, sometimes.
Aw, Alejandro sent me something sweet because he's on the road. Isn't he the best?
Okay.
I know what you're thinking. Don't worry. I'm gonna share this with my two favorite guys.
Cool, thanks.
Ow! I'm so sorry. Total reflex.
Thank you for joining me here on the CBC. Thank you for welcoming me into your home every week. Let's do it again. I'm Rick Mercer. I'll see you around.
When Rick Mercer signed off from his TV show last April, Canadians didn't know when they'd hear from him again.
Thank you very much.
Well, they didn't have to wait long.
Thank you.
In November, he hosted the Giller Prize ceremony. A week later, he was given the key to the city he grew up in, Logie Bay, Middle Cove, Outer Cove, Newfoundland, the highest honor the municipality can award. This fall, he also published Final Report, a book offering some of the behind-the-scenes tales of his show and some of his greatest rants from the past 15 years. I met up with Rick Mercer in Toronto to catch up. Hi.
Hello.
What have you been up to?
I've been traveling around the country. I do live shows, but of course I've got this book. So I was writing the book, and then I was editing the book, and you can show the book now. And I'm out there slogging the book.
I think people seem to miss you, given how well the book is doing.
I think that's a nice sentiment. Thank you very much.
Do you feel that?
I think sometimes people do miss the rants because on certain weeks when, let's call them rant-worthy weeks, I get a lot of email or social media activity from people saying, I would like to hear a rant on this or that. And that's nice. It's always nice, you know, that you didn't outstay your welcome.
Yes, that's always
good. It could be worse.
Yes.
They could be emailing and saying, just wanted to say glad you're gone.
Glad I have to watch you every week now.
Yeah.
Has there been a moment where you've been like, ooh, could have done a rant on that?
Sure, there's been tons of those moments. Then I get on the phone, and I'm on the phone like with a friend and ranting away, and they say, no, you don't miss your show at all, do you? Because I'm just like, rah, 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 rah. Yeah.
I have received text messages
You have
that are
received
sort
text
of
messages, yes.
rant.
Yes, where I think that's a good line.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah. I used to have 1 million viewers, now I'll just text Rosie.
One of the things you also talk about is marijuana. It is now legal.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you if you've been smoking. But
Well, you can, because I don't smoke marijuana.
All right.
Because of my religion. No, I just don't. I just never have. I find it amazing that nothing happened.
I know.
It's just amazing. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
The other day, I'm at the airport, and the guy takes out his laptop, and he takes out his like little plastic container of cannabis, lays it on top of the laptop, puts his wallet there, puts his coat on top, goes to the scanner. Nothing's happened. I kind of equate it to, you know, finally getting air conditioning. And people say, we should have done this 15 years ago. This is fantastic.
And when you asked Pierre Burton to roll a joint, was that 2004?
It was the very first season of the show, and I asked Pierre Burton to come on the show and roll a joint, and it's one of my favorite stories, and it's one of my favorite moments in my life because I got to meet Pierre Burton. And I can remember being so excruciatingly bored in grade 9 detention, just like so bored that I actually picked up a Pierre Burton book and was like, oh, this is how bad my life has become, and started reading it, and I didn't put it down. And then I ended up reading everything he ever wrote, and you know, he had a huge impact on my life and turned me into someone who was kind of interested in Canadian history, and to have him on the show was a real thrill, and especially doing something like that.
Hi, I'm Pierre Burton. Looking back on my career, you know, I cannot count the number of times a young man or a young woman has come up to me and said, hey, Mr. Burton, what's the best way to roll a joint? Well, let me tell you, it's not that way.
And he was quite adamant that it be real.
That's the thing, when I called him and I said, will you do it? And he said, yes. And he said, you bring the weed. And I hadn't thought about that. So I said, well, I've got a props department. He said, no, 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 no. I'm not going on to CBC and rolling oregano. I look like a fool. And so there was a young man in our office, and I said, Nick, do you think? He said, already on it, bag of weed tomorrow morning.
Now, the way you distribute the mix will determine the shape of your joint. I prefer the classic cone-shaped joint, what the young people call a coner.
So the first thing Pierre Burton said to me when I went to his house was, did you bring the weed? And the last thing he said to me, he said, leave the weed.
And he died not long after that. So that was like your moment with him.
Yeah, well, he basically told me this is going to be my last time on television. And I said, no, sir, you know, you look great. I'm sure you're going to be on TV many, many times. But yeah, that was his final appearance.
And remember, Canada, it's the loose joints that tend to fall apart. leaving unsightly toque burns on your chairs or on your bow tie. It's a tragedy we all want to avoid, don't we? I'm Pierre Burton, and that's how to roll a joint.
We are heading into an election year. You write, and this isn't, I agree with this, that we generally throw governments out. We don't suddenly fall in love with them. That's in one of your rants. So if you think about that, how do you think the Liberals are doing?
I don't know a single person who, at any point in their life, has voted with great enthusiasm for a candidate and 4 years later not been disappointed. Now, they still might vote for them again, but I've never experienced what that's like 4 years later. And boy, was I ever right. They've done a bang-up job. Whether the country's getting ready to throw the Liberals out, we usually give parties two terms.
Yeah.
Right now, I mean, there's a lot of factors, as you know. It's really, it's all about the NDP. It's all about how the NDP are going to do.
And how do you think he's doing?
Jagmeet?
Yes, Jagmeet.
He's got to get a seat, and so he's running in Burnaby. And for those Canadians who have never been to Burnaby, either has Jagmeet. Like, it's a tough sell.
Yeah.
Like, he's not from there. Now, people have done this before. Joe Clark went down to Nova Scotia and ran, and Brian Mulroney did the same thing. But that's a tough sell.
Yeah, and Andrew Scheer.
I think their entire strategy is convincing Canadians, middle-class Canadians, that Andrew Scheer is like them. So he's constantly saying, I'm like you, I'm like you. And I don't like that approach. Well, it's ridiculous. It's not true, for starters. He's like, my concerns are your concerns. No, you were the speaker for many, many years. You have a car and driver.
And a free house.
And a free house.
Yeah.
And you have a free house now, and that's fine. I don't begrudge him of that. But don't go around telling everyone, like, my concerns are your concerns, because they're not.
Yeah. And when the Liberals try and frame him as Stephen Harper with a smile, what do you think of that?
Well, I think he said he's Stephen Harper with a smile.
I'm not sure he has.
I don't know if he has, but I think he's probably, doesn't take that as an insult.
Will that be difficult to be off the air during an election? Because the first time we met, I have a photo of it. I don't know that I want to show Canadians, but I have a photo of the first time we met on the 2008 election plane, Jack Layton's plane. I have a really bad haircut. You look the same because you don't age. And you came up and started talking to me, and I was quite taken with you, frankly.
Thank you.
But will you miss that? Unless you get to do it again. I
will miss that very much. Yeah. In fact, anytime there was an election and I wasn't on the air, I used to call around and find a news organization that would put me on the planes. And I would very much like to do that, because I think, I always like to pretend to be a journalist, but I think anyone who's intrigued with being a journalist is certainly intrigued with covering a federal election and being on those planes.
And do you worry about people's engagement or disengagement from that world? And well, I'll ask you about Donald Trump after, but I wonder if it's related to that. People sort of starting to, I'm not sure they always like politicians, but starting to question things in light of sort of the climate we're in.
The climate we're in is so unique because Donald Trump is obviously sucking the oxygen out of the room. And so when you're talking about issues that are affecting Canadians, it's harder and harder to have a Canadian view of a Canadian issue, because there's this giant force out there that some see as incredibly negative. And there's just so much chaos. And chaos is going to draw everyone's attention. There's a train wreck happening, so everyone's going to go look at the train wreck. But I don't think it's very healthy, and it doesn't help us here when we have our own country to run, and we have our own leaders and our own decisions that we have to make. So it's a challenge for sure.
Do you think, though, that he is damaging political discourse and that is leaking into this country in any way?
Oh, I think one of the unfortunate things I've witnessed over my lifetime is people have less and less faith in these institutions, and political discourse is getting worse all the time. And it's always been incremental. So it's been, incremental. You didn't really notice unless you were a real student. But now it's obvious because it's just getting worse at such a quick rate of knots.
Before I came over, I was telling one of the makeup ladies at CBC that we were coming to see you, and she said, oh, I miss him so much. And she said, but he was in here not so long ago, and I realized his accent was thicker.
I don't know if that's true.
I don't know, but you have been spending more time in Newfoundland.
Yeah,
and has that been good?
Oh, that's been fantastic. Yeah. I've been back every month since I've gone off the air, and I've only ever felt that Newfoundland is home, so I don't think that's changed. And I've always wanted to get home more. I've just never been able to. It's nice taking this break and being home a bit more.
So if people want to see you, do you have anything in the hopper that you'd be willing to disclose right now?
I don't have anything in the hopper. There's talk of touring, and with the book, I really enjoyed writing those essays, those stories about being on the road. And now, when I'm going to bed at night, I'm always thinking like, oh, why didn't I tell that story in the book? Or why didn't I?
Follow up then about that.
There could be another book about more time on the road, because it was a lot of segments.
Well, at one point you mentioned that you broke a rib, but you don't tell anybody. You don't say how. So I was like, what? What's that story?
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I just like that part of writing, and that was a learning curve for me. So I think there'll be more of that.
So we saw there, you two have known each other for a while. What strikes you about him?
Well, so that was 2008 with that bad haircut, much younger and well-rested person on the plane. And what strikes me about him is, the reason we struck up a friendship obviously is politics. But as soon as you meet him, he gets in your corner and sort of cheers you along a little bit. And I think that's why so many people were willing to talk to him, because he's just a good listener, and he's a lot of fun, as you can tell there. I'm just going to do that interview like every Sunday from now on, probably.
That works for me. Up next on The National, can a new technology help settle an age-old debate about Canada's first national historic site and what lies below its surface?
It sends electromagnetic pulses into the ground.
This is important to me because when I walk on these grounds, I feel I'm walking on history.
First, though, a preview of a series of stories we've got coming up this week on The National. Health Canada is preparing to unveil the new food guide. We'll take a closer look at why they're doing it and questions around who could be influencing the process.
The Canada Food Guide, is that something that you follow?
No.
Have you ever?
No.
Never?
No.
After tax forms, it's the most downloaded government document, but who actually uses it?
Like, I know that you have to eat everything in moderation. Every morning, every lunch, all my snacks were fruit and vegetables.
Who gets a say about what's in it?
The dairy industry wanting this, the legume industry or whatever wanting their advice. That's not a good way to produce, good public health policy.
And is it really making anyone healthier?
I'd rather the government be in our fridges than the food industry.
I don't know that publishing a food guide is going to change people's eating habits.
So what's going on your plate? We go in depth starting Monday here on The National.
This is the way it was supposed to be. It's comical now, looking back at the Rube Goldberg device that was to be the roof of the Olympic Stadium. But back in the early 1970s, people thought, why not? The entire project was a futuristic dream, a building that would still be in vogue when there was a helicopter in every driveway. Ice and snow? Trifles. Hadn't they just landed a man on the moon? The whole thing was the brainchild of Montreal's mayor, Jean Drapeau, the national hero who brought us Expo 67. Who could doubt his visionary brilliance? Now, Drapeau is widely portrayed here as a megalomaniac who led Montreal over a cliff. But he is also ferociously defended. Hotline show host Gilles Proulx.
I think Drapeau was ahead of his time at the head of I wouldn't say a farmer's city. What he wanted is to give an heritage to Montreal, to say in 1,000 years that stadium will be there, just like the pyramids in Egypt or the Eiffel Tower. And you're going to be glad to say in 1976, a mayor decided to go against everybody to give you that heritage, and it's one of the most beautiful stadiums in the world.
To design his stadium, Drapeau didn't want just any architect. He chose Roger Taillibert of Paris, whose previous stadiums were not just buildings. They were, according to Drapeau, poems in concrete. When they started building it, though, the extremely complicated design, combined with an orgy of greed from Quebec's unions and business leaders, drove the cost into the stratosphere. The budget went from $150 million to $800 million by the time the 1976 Olympic Games were held. And even at that, the stadium was unfinished. No tower and no roof. In the 1980s, they decided to go ahead with the tower, but it burst into flames even before it was completed. In 1986, a piece of the tower fell into the playing field during an Expos game. The team said they would have to play more heads-up baseball from then on. In 1987, they sewed up a heap of orange Kevlar and strung it up over the stadium. By this time, the cost had risen to $900 million. But Roger Taillibert dropped in to tell Montrealers that money was not an important consideration.
It's not my problem. My problem is a concept.
But it turned out that the concept was also a problem. A hydraulic failure while moving the roof caused a terrible rip in the Kevlar fabric, the first of many. Later, it seemed to rip whenever a thunderstorm happened by. The rain leaked in, the money poured out.
Ça bouge.
In 1997, the PQ government announced a final solution.
We had so many problems with it that I think the time for experimentation is finished.
A brand new roof, this one made of Teflon.
They recognize Canada as an incredibly important market, and so we expect that General Motors will do the right thing.
Here are some of the other stories we'll be following this week here on The National. Tomorrow, General Motors is expected to respond to the union's pitch to keep the Oshawa, Ontario assembly plant open. Unifor argues GM has a number of options, like extending the life of the vehicles produced there or even shifting other production from Mexico to Canada. GM announced back in November that it was winding down operations at the plant and cutting close to 3,000 jobs. Actor Kevin Spacey is due in a Nantucket court tomorrow morning over the alleged sexual assault of a teenager. Spacey is charged with indecent assault and battery stemming from accusations that he groped an 18-year-old boy at this restaurant in 2016. Last week, a judge denied a request from the actor's lawyers who'd asked if he could skip tomorrow's court appearance. Spacey has pleaded not guilty. And we'll be keeping an eye on Las Vegas, where Consumer Electronics Show kicks into high gear this week. The world's annual biggest tech show is a good indicator of emerging trends in tech. So some ones to watch: connected homes, driverless cars, and 5G. That's the next generation of cell networks. And what we'll be able to do with all of that when they actually finally arrive.
For nearly 400 years, there has been a fort in Nova Scotia's Annapolis Valley. The place changed hands 7 times before Confederation. The Scottish, the English, and the French all had their turns. But until now, a part of Fort Anne's story has been missing. The Acadians are another group who claim Fort Anne as a place of historical significance. The CBC's Kayla Hounsell was there as researchers used tech to fill in the gaps.
This piece of equipment could be the key to uncovering stories of the past.
So this is what's called a ground-penetrating radar.
Consider this a different form of archaeology. It examines what's beneath the ground without disturbing the ground itself.
It sends electromagnetic pulses into the ground, and if it hits something below the ground surface, the reflections will be sent back to the instrument.
Together with this drone taking images from above, the GPR will allow the team to do 3-dimensional mapping.
This is such an exciting project, really.
The project started with Map Annapolis, a community-based organization using maps to find out more about places they care about in Nova Scotia's Annapolis Valley. This time they've chosen Fort Anne, Canada's first National Historic Site.
It's definitely part of the story of Canada. And the pre-story of Canada before we became a country.
This site is one of the most hotly contested sites in North American history.
Parks Canada manager Ted Dolan says Fort Anne is also considered the birthplace of Acadian culture since the governor of Acadia arrived in 1636.
The colonists that came with him within 2 generations stopped identifying themselves as French and started identifying themselves as Acadian.
Alan Melanson's ancestors were among them.
Well, this is important to me because when I walk on these grounds, I feel I'm walking on history.
There are 234 headstones on the site, but it's believed 2,000 people are buried here. Melanson says people in this community have always believed the Acadian burial ground is here, but he says it's important to know for sure.
I've read parish records, I've heard oral stories, but I find the arbiter of history is archaeology.
And that brings us back to that ground-penetrating radar. Collecting the data is relatively easy. Processing it is time-consuming. So, weeks later, we meet up with the archaeologist again, this time at their office in Halifax.
So this is basically our surface. We're looking from the top down. This is our ground surface.
When we see these spots of red, what does this mean?
It means there's something physical down there that is.
And when we zero in, we see a pattern, some sort of anomalies at the same depth, in a row, evenly spaced.
Either we could be seeing graves as these physical anomalies, or the spaces in between could be grave shafts that have been dug out around this.
They don't like to call it proof without actually digging up the site, but they say it is strong evidence of what Acadians have believed all along. Their ancestors are buried here at Fort Anne. One more level of authenticity that identifies the final resting place of the dead and keeps a piece of Canadian history alive. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Annapolis, Royal, Nova Scotia.
Up next on The National, a maze made for the record books.
It was great. Had fun running around chasing the kids, hiding around corners and scaring them. Still trying to find my son. He's still running around.
We'll take you inside Manitoba's newest, biggest snow maze in tonight's moment. But first, while we're talking about records, in case you missed it, this is, or more accurately was, the oldest documented person to have ever lived. Jeanne Calment of France was born before light bulbs and claimed to have met Vincent van Gogh. She didn't like him, by the way. She died in 1997 at the incredible age of 122 years and 164 days. Or did she? Russian researcher Nikolai Zak thinks it's all a great big lie. He believes she was already dead and that her daughter Yvonne assumed her identity back in the 30s to avoid inheritance taxes, keeping up the ruse until she died at age 99. So what's his evidence? For one, he says that at 122, she should have been much shorter than she was. 2, passport records list different eye colors. And 3, he claims Calment purposely destroyed family records. Now, his obsession might seem a little dark, but Zak has some supporters. There's even talk of exhuming her body to test her DNA. Apparently, some don't believe in letting stories rest.
Tonight, meet two men who covered war with a crayon. Historians with a difference. Two men who traced the personally experienced events of two wars in their dog-eared sketchbooks. Perhaps the world's best-known war cartoonists, Bruce Bairnsfather and Bill Mauldin. It's 40 years since Bairnsfather's war ended, 13 years since Mauldin's came to its double finish. Yesterday was the day allowed for the act of recollection. And weekend editor Gregory Clark had a few thoughts about remembrance.
How little war really means to us is best demonstrated in the fact that we set aside 1 minute of silence out of the 5,256,000 minutes of the year as a mark of respect and mourning for the 58,000 Canadians killed in action in the First War and the 39,000 in the Second War. We declare a whole day for remembrance, but we gravely suggest 1 minute for silence, and hardly anybody remembers. Thus likely is war brushed off by all save the true mourners, and even some of them forget. For reasons of convenience, many of the formal observations of November 11 were held on Saturday and Sunday, November 8th and 9th. A woman of my acquaintance lost her husband in the First War and her son in the Second. She was invited to attend ceremonies on each of the 3 dates, one by her husband's regiment, one by her church, and one by her son's school principal. I offered to be her escort on each or any of the occasions. As a matter of fact, she said, declining, every day is Remembrance Day with me, every day, every night, all the years through. War, you see, except for the brief time it rages, is not a public matter at all. In the long view, it's almost entirely a private matter.
And so it was for Bill Mauldin and Bruce Bairnsfather. By accident, their private view of war became familiar to millions, but remained no less private. Bruce Bairnsfather was a man of elastic temperament. No amount of fatigue, hardship, peril, or pain could quench his vital spirit or reduce his exuberant sense of humor. Before 1914, he'd been many things, now a regular soldier, now an engineer. He had no thought of sketching except for mischief on walls, shirt cuffs, or tablecloths. Without the war, he might never have put pencil to paper for publication, but the war insisted. Charles Templeton met him for close-up.
This is your most famous drawing, the better old, isn't it, Captain Bruce?
I suppose it is. Everybody seemed to take to this one more than any other.
How did it come to be drawn?
Well,
did you see some incident like this?
Yes, I happened to be in a battle and was trying to get out of it, to be perfectly candid, and I was running about this field, and as I did so, I saw a whole crowd of fellows stuck in a shell hole together, not only two, but several of them, and it all struck me as very pathetic to see anybody in such a predicament. Nobody knew whether the war was over there or over here, and I thought this thing over for some time and nursed the idea in my mind.
Well, hello, you. Steven, Moira, Alexis.
Johnny Rose, baby.
Ready? Yes. Who wants some champagne?
Come here, big guy.
Look who's back in the house. I smell drama.
Oh, we do have a lot of fun around here, don't we? We do, sometimes.
Season 2 of Little Dog.
What a disaster.
It's going to be a knockout.
Unearthing the past can cause a lot of problems for a lot of people.
I like being a problem.
The owners of a family-run corn maze in Manitoba wanted to keep the fun going through the winter, so they spent the last few weeks building a new one, this time out of snow. That's a totally normal thing to do. Turns out it may be the world's largest, and its grand opening this weekend is our moment of the day.